everybody. Thanks for joining us for another Practical Pet Chat. Lorin, this is one of those times of year where sometimes it's better off leaving your pet at home than taking them with you. Summertime in particular gets really hot. You're in a hurry. There's just a lot going on. But a lot of folks will ask me, is it okay to leave my pet at home alone in the house for long periods of time? Are they going to get bored? Are they going to get frustrated? Are they going to tear up my couch? Are they going to eat the walls? So when I ask them, well, what else are you giving? They're giving him things that I'm like, oh, you were good up until that point. So share with our folks some of the concerns that you have and what's your response when folks say, can I leave my dog or cat at home for these long periods of time?
Oh, you can. There's no wrong or right answer here. And I say that because where my store was, I had a lot of medical people that shopped with me, and medical schedules for doctors and nurses that are, working in hospitals, they can be long and sometimes they'll pull a double shift and that sort of thing. So, you still got to work, you still got to, provide and that kind of thing. So I get it. I I there are options, if you've got other family members that can interact with the dog, that's ideal. Otherwise, if you can have maybe a dog walking service or a neighbor or somebody or doggy door or, dog appropriate doggy door, meaning that small dogs, it's risky. Um, if you have hawks and owls and those kinds of things. But there's not a right or wrong answer. Your dog always wants to be with you. If you go out and check the mail, and you come back, your dog is celebrating that you're back. If you go and run to the grocery store and you're back within an hour, your dog is celebrating that you're back. If you're gone all day and you come home from work, your dog is celebrating. They just want to be with you. That's inherently who they are. And they're not alone. I mean, I've had cats that do the same thing, that act like, oh my God, you've been gone forever. And the issue is, do you want to live without a pet? So try to do the best you can and take things into consideration. Now, am I going to have any walls? Am I going to have any carpet? But are they going to eat my couch? That's dependent on the individual. They do act out. They get frustrated. Some dogs aren't couch potatoes. Certainly, if you're somebody who's never home, I probably wouldn't get a Aussie, a working dog type, Malinois, anything like that, because they have too much that they need to expel. They need, they want to focus on things, and there's nothing there to keep that, them from just acting out. So, you have to get an appropriate animal to fit the lifestyle, the working lifestyle that you have. If it's temporary, if it's once in a while, there are other things you can do. The pet peeve for me, because I've helped people through that part of that several times, but the pet peeve for me is people will come into the store and they tell me that, they leave this toy or that chew with the dog before they leave. And I'm like, oh, is there anybody else at home? And they're like, no, no, but it keeps them entertained. And I go, in my head, I'm in worst case scenario. I'm already jumping to, the toy unravels, the stuffing comes out, the dog rips it and then swallows it. The chew gets down to a really small size and the dog swallows it and it gets lodged in the throat, or it's not something that they can pass, or so I go to worst case scenario. And anytime I have brought that up to clients, inevitably the vast majority of responses, because what I'm saying doesn't fit their need, is, oh, but that's never happened. Well, it doesn't happen till it happens.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's,
not
yeah, there's no fail safe. So all of those things should be given under supervision. I don't even like to feed an animal. That's why I don't like free feeding. That's one of the many reasons I don't like free feeding, that I'm not there while they're chewing, so that if somebody rings the doorbell, I mean, what if your dog's free feeding while you're gone and UPS comes by, rings the doorbell, and your dog inhales and barks at the same time that they're trying to chew and they start choking? got to worry about aspiration, all those things. So and I know there are people out there that are rolling their eyes going, for God's sakes, animals have been
Well, let me
taking
let
care of
me
themselves
stop
for
you there,
years.
and let me ask you for those who aren't familiar with it. I don't charge Bella right now for eating, but I'm thinking if I don't understand free feeding, I should probably be charging her to feed. Or is there a different explanation of what free feeding is for those?
Yes, free feeding is leaving food out all the time, which is probably right up there with one of the top three worst things that you could do. So, in regular care and maintenance. So, it's a stickler. I know you don't agree with it either. It's highly problematic. It's a cause for a lot of medical things. It's a cause for training issues, obesity. There's just so many. I could go on and on and on about the issues that comes along with it. But it's called free feeding, allowing them to feed at, the freedom to feed at will. And I just am really opposed to that. So,
Yeah, I think we
you
need
know,
to do a whole episode on that because there is a lot more around it, which is why I wanted you to really call it out for
yeah,
the folks.
yeah, I'm sorry.
You
I
and
thought
I,
we had before.
yeah, we throw out these terms, folks, and we get it. And feel free, hit us up, practicalpetchat@gmail.com or on any of the social media channels with a hey, can you guys dive deeper on
Yeah,
these
what are
types
you talking
of
about?
yeah. Because I did have somebody actually bring up and they were describing it. I said, oh, you do free feeding. And they were like, oh, I didn't know there was an actual term. And I think that's a good call out. You just sparked it for me here. But I think one of the other things I wanted to hit on too on the especially because it's summertime, right? Is do I leave my dog outside? Do I leave my dog inside? Obviously, with cats, you've probably got a more defined area of what you're allowing them to do, hopefully. But with the dogs in summertime, one of the things that crushes me, and we have a pool, and I have spent a lot of time working with Bella to make sure, and I still am always uncomfortable when we're going someplace and she wants to be outside. I'm like, please leave the ducks alone because that's her kryptonite. We will have ducks that will fly into our pool, and Belle is, she's a ninja. She's in that pool going after them. And there have been times where she's gotten herself so worked up, and I can hear the commotion from another room, or my kids can. And we're immediately, because there have been times where we've found her literally hanging on the edge of the pool, just like, okay, I'm good. I'm just catching my breath. I'm going to move myself over to the shelf and then out. But I've talked with numerous people and pool folks over the year um, who have shared the tragic stories.
Does
So
she
if you
have
don't have,
access to the pool when you're gone?
yeah, no, we've got the fencing and all that stuff. But from the standpoint of
Got
that,
it.
if it's convenient every time to put that stuff up, and that's the problem, right? If it's not convenient, are you taking that chance, right? And so keep those things in mind. Hey, is it safe? I like what you said earlier. It depends. It's always safe until it's not safe. Any one specific incident, how many times did we hear it? It never happened before. I never thought this could happen. I think you and I are in the same mindset. I'm always like, I'm going to the extreme and working my way back,
Right.
right? And it's the same thing with the toys and all that. What's really interesting, and a lot of people have commented when they come to our house, they find it like, oh, I'd be annoyed by that. And I'm like, honestly, I love that Bella. So Bella has a big toy chest. It's ridiculous. And we recycle things in and out so that she's got new things in there constantly. But she will go over there and she will sit and she'll look and then she'll let us know. She either rings her collar or she'll, whine and, look down. And that's her telling us she'd like us to take toys out of the box. And folks will go, oh, that's so weird. That's so unique. That's annoying. No, we worked with her on that. So that way, when we do leave her at home, she doesn't have to worry about it. And what's funny is she'll tell me which toys she wants out when I'm leaving. And there are toys that I'll leave out, and there are toys that I won't leave out when we're going to be gone for 6, 8, 10 hours. Um, I just think you have to kind of, again, it's like we've talked about safety proofing your house and all these others. You got to get in the mindset of your pet. You know your pet. What are its tendencies going to be? My folks and friends with cats, you know, they're going to be up on those counters. So anything on the counters is fair game. And we all get busy.
Yeah.
And there are things out that they should not be able to get
Well,
into.
there's dogs that get up on the counters.
Well, that's true.
We recently got cameras,
Like
for
that.
the inside of the house so that when we're gone, we know exactly what the girls are doing.
Yeah.
We can look at them, we could talk to them if we wanted to, but we can move the cameras around. And it's so interesting. They do exactly the same thing every single time we leave. Bellamy is in her bed closest to the door, because she's pining for her dad. And Delaney, smart girl, is up on the bed because she has a whole king size bed to herself. And she's lounging, ears perked, waiting to hear if
Sure.
she can hear anything. But they do exactly the same thing every time. Nobody plays with toys. Nobody does anything else. They don't play with each other. It's kind of devastating. It's
Yeah.
like, God, talk about making you feel bad. You need to get home because they're just, they're so attached. And we we hope that they sleep. I mean, it seems like they're resting at least. But that they're waiting and waiting and waiting. So I do advocate for the cameras. It's nice to be able to see what your animals are doing and to be able to talk to them. And I think it's helpful for them. Lots and lots of people I know now, and they're so inexpensive. I mean, it was like
Right.
$15 a camera. And you can turn them off when you're home, and block them, and you can see them on your phone. And I love that. That's nice too when you're at work and you want to know what's going on with your animals.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of that. I've said that if you're taking your dog to a dog daycare. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
like number one. If they don't have that, I'm not going there. So I love being able to check in on them. What's interesting too about that is your point on the technology and where it's gotten to. I just saw one recently where you can get an alert if they're in an area that they shouldn't be in. Belle's got one of those collars where I know where she is, GPS any minute of any day. And I recently had to expand the area and walk the area that she can be in with it because it kept giving me alerts that she was on the neighbor's property instead of ours. When in reality, what she was doing was just sticking her head, through a little area in the fence, and I couldn't figure out where it was. So, just another great way that technology can give you an alert to something. Uh, and that's that other part of it, right? I love that Bella and our neighbors' dogs, they run the fences. I live in this gated community. All the dogs come down to our property. And they play and there's a grass area, but they're still separated by the fence. And she'll get that extra exercise. And I know sometimes that's what she just wants to do is be out there. So I love that idea of having the cameras out there. I don't have the cameras. I did at a different place. Have it now because frankly, almost 24/7, one of us is home between
Yeah.
the girls and my wife and I.
Well, the other thing too, for a lot of people with they've got the kind of schedules that it's like, God, can I leave my dog home that long? You need to take things into consideration to make sure there's fresh water all the time, to make sure that they have a way to relieve themselves, whether that's somebody coming to get them or, if you have little dogs, potty pads, whatever your thing is. But if you're going to kennel them while you're gone, please get a kennel that is sizable. Whatever size dog you have, get a kennel that allows them to get up, stand up, move around, walk around. Maybe it's an exercise pen, maybe it's just a room, maybe it's whatever it is. Take a look at that and think about the dimensions and relationship to their size. Would you want to stay in there for that many hours a day? How
Yeah,
much would you be able to move around? How much exercise would you get? How comfortable would you be? Do they have a bed in there? Some people would come to the store and say, my dog keeps eating their bed. Okay, let's put some other things in there. It doesn't have to be a bed. It can be blankets, it can be sheets, it can be, whatever. Where is it? Is the dog, anywhere that they're laying on something too hot or too cold or,
yeah,
we have to take into consideration the individual animal. and the way they're acting out. And the other thing to that, of course, is to maybe get some training also, because that kid is frustrated. And so they need avenues of discipline, which, can come off negative, but it's positive reinforcement. And also, again, if you've got that kind of kid that they're just frustrated, have somebody come get them and let them out or take them for a walk. Maybe spend 15, 20 minutes with them. We have neighbors that had three sizable dogs and they both worked long hours. And we saw that dog walker come twice a day to walk those three dogs and to spend some time with them. And it was awesome because the dogs were satisfied, they were satiated with, having somebody pay some attention to them. It's not mom and dad, but it was somebody. So you have to look at those things. And if you need ideas, if you have issues, reach out to us and we'll give you ideas that we can talk about here with your particular issue.
Yeah, I like that you said the redirecting. That's really what we're doing and talking about here is redirect the behavior. If it's not a behavior that is positive for you, the dog, the household, etc., then you got to do something. What really frustrates me is when people go, I've given up. Well, if you've given up, who's going to make any kind of change, right? You've got to put in that effort. I think one of the things I that you sparked me on here too was just like us, different times of the year, we want different things in our
Mhm.
environment. And so I've got cooling pads right now because it's hot. We're not Texas hot. I'm not sure the face of the sun is Texas hot sometimes, but
Oh,
that's okay.
please. It's not that bad.
But Belle she's got 700 coats according to Vamla, which is my robot vacuum that cries every day when I turn the vacuum on. Of like, really, can we get that dog brushed even more? But it's funny. I will watch. Bella will go to different areas of the rooms where I've got now multiple cooling pads. So that's another thing to think about as well. Where does your dog like to go? Where would they be most comfortable? And if they are feeling overwhelmed with the heat, with the environment, whatever it may be. And then the other thing too is I do play, I'm a big music person and sounds for my animals. And what's really interesting is we'll play different things in different rooms. Um, and it's so funny because I will notice it impacting me where I'll sit down and I'll sit in with the bearded dragon or I'll sit out. And one of my favorite things to do is actually just go outside with the tortoises and sit by them and they'll walk over immediately and Belle will be there laying there and we're just having this total zen moment and you're smelling the flowers. And that's another thing too for those that are leaving their pets at home. You don't have to play sound. You can just have the TV on. I know Belle's got a couple of favorite shows that she's got.
Well,
Um,
play
yeah,
sound on the TV.
yeah. Well, and here's the only reason I say you don't have to uh, know what's going to come up on that stuff. Because sometimes I will tell you, we'll just say the commercials and all the rest, you can get some crazy things depending on what you've got.
Commercials, dude,
Yeah.
you got to get into the current
Well,
century. We're
I
all
should.
streaming.
Yeah, well, no, I'm streaming. I'm streaming, but Belle doesn't know how to work the remote yet. Thank goodness, because I'd never get the TV back.
We leave
Uh,
the TV on. We leave the TV on and we leave it on
I do most
shows
of the
that, yeah, that have the type of, I mean, we don't put it on animal shows because Delaney doesn't think another animal, whether it's one dimensional or whatever, should
that's
ever
their
be
environment.
present in the house.
Right. That's their environment, right? And that
Right,
would be construed as a threat. Uh,
right.
no, I 100% agree with you. It's funny too because what I was referencing on some of the commercials is some of the sadder animal things that will pop up if you're playing an animal channel. And Belle is very sensitive. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, on the cooling pads, the other thing I want to say is if you're getting something that you haven't used before with your animal, like somebody will go get a cooling pad and think this is great, and they'll use it for the first time when they're leaving. And some of those cooling pads, some of the gel, I'd like to say they were all made that they were safe, but they're not.
Yeah,
And I don't want to
yeah.
see somebody using it for the first time with an animal that they don't know how they're going to react to that, and the dog chews on it and ingests any of the things that are in it. So be sure that whatever you're going to leave with your kid, you've experienced time with your kid and that object.
And that it's not something that if they do have a moment and tear up, that would be something I'm worried about you. But you know what's funny is to that point, I'll oftentimes I'm the guinea. So I say this all the time. Bella is not a guinea pig. So thank you to all you folks out there who send me things and expect that I'm going to hand that to Bella. Just so you know, I'm the one testing things out,
Yeah,
and I will say, yeah. So I was not a big fan of some of the cooling pads because they were just glorified gel,
right.
and too easy to puncture. And now I've got some toxic, sludge that I would not be happy if any of my pets got into. So why would I have that out? I'm not going to use it. But I will say I've gotten a couple recently where honestly I'm like, hey Belle, let's go lay on your cooling pad and watch TV. Bring that up on the couch. Let's have that up here. So there are to your point, you can't just expect if you don't figure it out, your pet's going to figure out the proper way to use it. So I'm a big like it's funny because it got really hot here the other day. It was having an air conditioning issue, and I immediately was like, "Come on, Belle, let's." I know it's 900 million degrees out, but let's snuggle on the cooling pad. And she and I both enjoyed the texture of it, the coolness of it. But I also want to bring this up too. I'm a big aromatherapy guy, and I've got different smells and all that going. However, that can be problematic for your pets, right? Especially those of you with birds, like please. But
Right.
anyway, um, so I don't have that going throughout the house. But it is interesting when Belle will come in and sit in my office, which she is right now. That also is something I know because I'll see her lifting her nose up and just, not trying to inhale it, but just getting the extra wafts of whatever scent. And by the way, know what scents work with dogs and don't, know what scents work with cats and don't, and so on and so forth, whatever pet you have.
Well,
Because
and like something like lavender, lavender is not lavender is not lavender. They're all different.
that's a great point. That's a really good point.
Some of them have a lot of other things in there with an overwhelming fragrance of lavender, and some of them aren't well made, even though they might say essential oils. You really have to know the company.
You do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're going to pay for quality.
Yeah.
That's like the number one in essential oils. So a lot of great things there. I will say, ease your conscience because one of the great things is when you do come home, you see that happiness, you see that joy. They're not sitting there counting the clock going, hey, that was 22 minutes or hey, that was 22 hours. They're just happy you came home.
Yeah.
And it is another one of those just moments of excitement um, and that just reassurance. I talk to Belle when I'm leaving. And it's, I will say to her, hey, I'm going to run. Like she knows my schedule. So it's funny. It's like if she had a little recording device, she'd just be able to hit that. For all you inventors out there, maybe that's what she needs. Dad will be back in the little timer, and it says. But I treat her the same way I do. I treat my daughters. I do the same with the bearded dragon, the tortoises. I'm like, hey, I'm taking off. I'm going to be doing this, and I leave. I know they're like, yeah, just go so you can get back. But that's how I communicate with them. So if you haven't tried that, try that. You talk to your plants if you want your plants to grow. Talk to your pets, let them know where you're going. Um, Although I will say, not all of my plants appreciate my discussions. There's one plant in the corner over here that is really not liking this podcast.
We'll tell the girls that we're leaving and we're coming right back, and all they ever do is say liar.
That's a good.
They
Oh
pout and they go liar.
yeah. Well, and I don't. Do you have this? I grab my keys. And I like now when I take my keys off of the where they're hanging, I have to do it in a way so that they don't jingle because that is like catnip for Bella. Where I heard a ring, he's going to the car. I'm going with them. And I keep trying to tell her, no matter what you have seen, you cannot drive the Subaru. I am so sorry. I know those are the coolest commercials ever, but only dad drives the Subaru. So love you. Go get in your back seat. But I do love. I like taking, but I can't take her on everything I'm going to. Wish I could.
Right.
Um, but yeah. So that's it's a funny thing of they're in tune, whether you think they are or not. They are really in tune with what we're doing because that's all they're doing. They're studying us constantly looking at what we do, how we react, what signs we're giving off, what
Yeah, just
pheromones.
like real kids.
Yeah, yeah. So I love it. I love it. Well, hey, I love that you called out. If there's something that you have a question about, reach out to us. Let us know. We're happy to pontificate. I mean, share our thoughts and expertise. Oh, wait, maybe not expertise, but our experiences. So send those to practicalpetchat@gmail.com. Reach out to us on all the social media channels. Do us a favor, share us with a friend of yours this week. We'd really appreciate it as we continue to move forward with all of this. But thank you, as always, for taking a few minutes with us. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your pets, and we certainly appreciate your time. Can't wait till the next time. Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.